Hey everybody, welcome back for another lesson of drums. This time we will turn our attention away from drum synthesis itself and instead focus more on creating a beat, getting some groove going. I will share some of my ideas, how I would do it. I think composition and arrangement is a very personal process, so I won't tell you how to make music or how to arrange it or compose it. Likewise, the same applies for arranging and composing rhythmic structures, but I can give some maybe tips or pointers on how I perceive this topic, and maybe you can then figure out your own system, So let's get to it. Okay, so I would, for the purpose of this video, narrow down the creative process of creating rhythm to two elements or two aspects. One is dialogue and the other one is repetition. I'll explain them. The dialogue, okay, basically it's how you will have a certain sound appear, announce something, and another sound responds back to it, right? They're sounds, so they're sounds, they're talking whether we want them to or not, right? It's like, that's what they do, they sound. So we can have the sounds interact with each other, not just have them independently, oblivious to each other's existence, but instead mingling together, like connecting, interacting with each other. And this is what I would call dialogue. So in drums, we would basically create patterns of drums, of sounds, of percussive sounds that kind of have a sort of communication between each other going, and they all know exactly when each other one is supposed to come in, basically. And the second aspect, repetition, or I would also call it like circling, or maybe even looping, is basically coming up with some element of your drums that repeats, that you will repeat intentionally. And I don't mean just copy-pasting it lazily. I mean actually in the rhythmic structure you have elements that repeat to a specific beat, and this generates the feeling of groove, the feeling of motion. And if done properly, it will also generate a sort of circular vibe, where the beat kind of just keeps going and going and going, like circling around, for this, it's useful to even maybe perceive as you're making the rhythm, not as a line. It's a drum loop, right? So it's a circle in some sense. Or even if you call it a drum pattern, it's still a pattern. It should have some sort of repetition there, right? So not in a lazy copy-paste way, but in the structure itself, you creating a sort of repeating motions, while at the same time being fully able to introduce many other sounds, random sounds, spontaneous sounds, whatever, but all lined neatly along a kind of confident, repetitive base, and by base I mean foundation of your rhythm, So let's go ahead and jump into some examples, okay? Okay, so here I have a kick and bass loop. Now already right here you can already perceive the circularness of it. There's a kick. Imagine this isn't a line. Imagine this is a circle, and at each 12 o'clock point is a kick. Then it circles around and there's another kick, and it circles around and there's another kick. So basically each moment from kick to kick is a circle, and the bass notes kind of fill in the gaps, So this just to perceive it more like a circle for the purpose of this video, Now here I have a drum loop made of completely random resampling. You can take a listen. And it just keeps going on and on. There's no structure to it. It's all just randomly triggered drum sounds. It's done using techniques covered in other videos. You didn't miss anything. And it's using source files found somewhere on the internet. So we're going to try to use this drum part here to kind of like find ways how we can create groove out of it, So right away, I would maybe just focus on finding a specific thing that we would like to, a few specific sounds that we would like to use as our main speakers, right? So let's take a look. This is cool, with the second part as well. This is also cool. This is nice. This can be used for some sort of background repetition. Maybe this also. We're just cutting up, finding parts of it that we can actually see potential in, you know, getting some nice grooviness from. Okay, I'd say that's about it. Maybe this also. Yeah, the rest we can delete, just to, or move it somewhere away so it doesn't, you know, take our attention. Now, if I imagine that the circle is not from here to here to here, but instead the circle is from here to here. So for example, I would have some maybe element, let's get rid of this for now, let's move it here, come in at the halfway point. Let's say this comes in repeating at the halfway point, right? We can even fade it in and out like so. And notice how it will be very stable throughout this section. And so on, you know. Nothing too fancy yet, but we'll get to it. Let's use these other sounds to kind of bring in and out in between this one. So let's say at the start here, we'll come in this, and this will come in here. Now this I can repeat here, but that would be a little bit too obvious, right? Maybe let's skip this one and put it on the next one. Skip this one and put it on the next one. So it's basically at the same moment in the circle, but not on every one. So let's go ahead and very quickly just drop a drum bus here to bring the color up a bit. And now let's listen to both of them, both of these tracks. Right, so that's basically what we already have some grooviness going, right? And all it was so far is just a sense of repetition. Now we'll also try to include, there's already some dialogue here, but let's actually make it very, design it specifically for dialogue. What I would do is actually create another audio track. If we want, what I try to do is for each voice of a dialogue have its own dedicated track. So this one will be happening here, and also have each one in a dedicated position in stereo. So say this one here, let's put it on a small delay. I'm going to change this to time, bring this to 1 millisecond, unlink them, and this one down to like 11, around here. Bring this down also. Very slight, right? Let's find another source sound from our material here, something bigger, you know. Is okay. And this time let's play around with the audio file itself. Let's maybe stretch it a bit here. Let's see what happens if I bring this up to about 2 octaves higher. This can be useful. So now I'm going to have this line here interacting with this line. Say this one, this sound here will come in here. So now we have this sound coming in between these here. But let's say it leaves a space here and continues on here. Okay? And then let's say it comes in one last time, a third time here, and instead extends to over here. very good. At this point, we can introduce a third voice to our dialogue. And this one, let's maybe put it on, let's put it on a grain delay, just to give it a little bit of a different dimension, and maybe pitch it down a little bit. And let's include it, let's put it on a slower loop, a slower circle than the other ones, right? Forgive me for using this term with the circle. I know it's not very like orthodox or traditional, but I feel it can be very helpful in the way we perceive this, you know. Let's keep this. Let's keep it. Let's put it in an uneven spot, like here. Perfect. So just this, just these two moments. This I can then just copy and paste it over here. And a cool trick to know is every time, this is a cool thing I like, every time you take something, highlight it and duplicate it, go into the thing you duplicate and change it around a little bit. Take maybe some other part of it, and maybe let's just like create some sort of manual glitch here at the end. Right? Maybe not here, but a little bit before. Or like this. So yeah, let's see how this works. This, for example, if we take and duplicate it here, let's go ahead and maybe make it a little bit fancy. Let's take this and copy it here. This we can copy it over here, and we can even move sounds around into different voice areas, right? Different spaces and so on, to keep things interesting. Maybe like so here. Let's take a listen. Maybe let's extend this one here and give a little bit of unpredictability by taking some element and maybe just dropping it here. And maybe pitch it up. Perfect. So now we have some drum dialogue happening here. It has some repetitive elements, it has a dialogue going, and we can sum it into one group, for example. And have this group of three voices being one voice in a more meta scale. So then in another area I can go ahead and create, for example, drop a synth into a new track, and maybe around the halfway point here I would maybe put in a new simpler repetitive bass coming in here, like so, or maybe better yet, like so. And here I am just synthesizing a very quick little noise burst, noise white here, wave, a filter frequency, let's put band pass, amp envelope, very short and snappy, and there we go. Cool, and this is where at this point, see, we can clearly see that it's growing in energy, you know, it's developing this part. So let's build in it. Let's not take away from it yet. This is a perfect moment to actually keep developing it, and the way to develop it is up to you. You can perceive it as a fractal, where you kind of keep zooming in and including smaller and smaller elements, or zooming out and including more larger and larger elements. This is one way to, you know, look at it. But of course, everybody has their own way how they would like to develop their sound. let's take this, copy paste it here, and just as I said as a fractal, I will now make it proportion 2 times less than the previous one. So here I would just drop it in like so. So it's the same basic pattern, but on a smaller, on a greater scale, less often, you know. In this case, let's go ahead and maybe put in a heavy, dirty. Let's put a dirty noise. Let's put noise looped. Let's change this to fixed, and let's maybe put it on a Let's overdrive it like crazy. Create a very distorted sort of clang here. I'm gonna put overdrive. Right, very, very strong, and then I'm gonna put a limiter here. I'm gonna bring the ceiling down very low, and bring bring this very strong so that we start hearing how it distorts a little bit. And here I'm gonna go into the envelope, make it a little bit more snappy, like so. This is okay. Bring the drive up, tone up. And let's bring the volume down as well. And now let's listen to what this sounds like. Very simple, very effective. You see, just focusing on these like 2 little aspects of composing, and you already have a very good set of guidelines on maybe where to go. Or you can develop your own specific, you know, strategies and so on. But I find that these are quite helpful, you know. In a very short amount of time, we're able to get quite an effective beat going. Okay, I think that's it for this video. I wish there was more I could say, but really this is your own personal journey and how you will arrange and compose your sounds, right? These were just some tips or maybe general guidelines that you can look at. If they're helpful, then nice. If not, you know, feel free to develop your own. And peace out. Till the next one. Cheers.